The Detroit Tigers played a spring training baseball game that was actually broadcasted by the team. I know it sounds like it's a mythical event that's completely made up, but it actually did happen. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the notable performances from the game, and then we will player preview Tarik Skubal and talk about his 2024. All today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can join today and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. All righty. Welcome in. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope your start of your week is going well. We are going to discuss the, again, mythical event that is Bally Sports Detroit actually broadcasting a Detroit Tigers spring training baseball game. I didn't think it was possible. You didn't think it was possible, but here we are. Go play the lotto, ask out your crush, do whatever. Anything truly is possible. We have a home broadcast in spring training to discuss. So we are going to talk a lot about that, the broadcast itself, Benetti's first game, obviously. Then we'll talk about the notable performances on the field, and then we'll kind of transition that, obviously, Tarik Skubal being the probably most notable performance on the field in this game. We'll transition that into a player preview on Tarik Skubal. Got to take advantage of everybody talking about Scooby right now and do his player preview today as well. So let's start off with a Kerry Carpenter update. He is going to play a spring training game today as you're listening to this. If you're listening on Tuesday, he is going to play on Tuesday, which is a great sign. This is still pretty early in spring. We still got 3 weeks left of this thing, right? So the fact that he's already getting worked back into the lineup and getting, even if it's just an inning or two, an at-bat and an inning in the field, just him getting any work already gives me a lot of optimism that he'll be completely fine, no restrictions, 100% by opening day, which is really all we care about. So, if this injury was going to happen, now is the time to do it. So glad that he's already kind of getting worked back into to the swing of things. Let's talk about this ball game. 2-1 victory for the Detroit Tigers over the Boston Red Sox. They kind of played the Worcester Woo Sox, if we're being honest. I believe that's the AAA affiliate of the Red Sox still. But yeah, not a lot of opening day starters in the Red Sox lineup for whatever that is worth to you. I know the Tigers on the flip side played almost their entire opening day lineup. I think you got about 8 out of 9 opening day starters in there. You just switched out Vierling for Carpenter, and I think you're looking at all 9 of 9, and then Scooby is your opening day starter. So, you're kind of close. And before I have to, oh my goodness, you only beat the Woo Sox by a run. All the starters were out by the 5th inning, and it's still a spring training game. Okay, take a deep breath. It's okay. So want to start off by talking about the broadcast, actually. Benetti's first game as a member of the Detroit Tigers. I almost said of Bally Sports Detroit, but if you remember, his contract is actually with the team. So that's kind of a cool thing. But yeah, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Genuinely. I was absolutely thrilled before Tarik Skubal even threw a pitch when Benetti was just talking about how Skubal looked upset because the pitch clock wasn't working and he had to wait around to start his outing. I was like, this just feels different. And I'm not here to talk about the previous, group or whatnot, just talking about the group we have right now. And I thought this was a fantastic first game. I thought Simo worked really well with Benetti. I thought that Benetti, obviously driving, he's the play-by-play guy, but, this is their first, game together too. And so I think that I just thought it was fantastic. Obviously, the returning faces we're used to. Johnny Kane, we love Johnny. Natalie Kerwin, who did a great job last year. back again for this season as well. A lot of color commentators this season will be cycled through. We didn't see all of them in this game, obviously, but a lot of guys that are going to the former Tigers, especially, that are going to get a look this season. But just for whatever it's worth, and it's the first spring training game. The Tigers have such an illustrious and fantastic history of having some of, if not the best broadcasters in the game of baseball. Like, that's been a Detroit Tigers signature type of affiliation. It's Tigers and elite broadcasting. And just having, I'm not making any proclamations one spring training game into this dude's tenure, but just having somebody who you look at and you go, man, like it's possible to really have that feeling again. That's a really, really cool thing. So I thought that it was great. Also, huge, huge, huge shout out to Willie Horton, who was in the booth for an inning of this game. I promise we'll talk about the game here in a second, but just what an absolute gift to the planet Earth Willie Horton is. I know that that's not a new sentiment and a new realization, right? Obviously has been a part of this city's history for decades and decades, but what an absolute beautiful human that man is. I could listen to him talk about life and about baseball all day long and never get bored. I thought that having him go into the booth and Benetti introduced himself and whatnot was just a really, really cool moment. He talked about life. He talked about the city of Detroit and how much it means to him and the history of it. You don't think the city of Detroit in the last 60 years without thinking of Willie Horton. And I just thought it was such a cool moment to have him in the booth for this game. And him and Simo have a great relationship and have since Simo was a player here. Just a beautiful human being. So, how can you not love Willie, man? Just really, really awesome stuff, and wanted to point that out as well. Let's talk about this ball game. Okay. Tigers, like I said, almost opening day lineup. Pretty close. You had Veerling in the 9-hole playing center. I think Parker Meadows, who led off and played DH in this game, is your center fielder on opening day, and then you replace Veerling with Carpenter. There's probably some moving around in terms of order that is going to get shuffled around, but that's going to get shuffled around throughout the entire season. Like, this is AJ Hinch, right? We may not see the same lineup twice all year for all we know. So I'm not really worried about order. That will work itself out, and Hinch will play matchups as best as he can, like he always does. But in terms of just players playing in the lineup and playing at certain positions, I think the starting lineup of this game was very close to opening day. And then Tarik Skubal obviously is going to be your opening day starter. I didn't think there were too many notable performances on the offensive side of the ball, to be honest with you. Malloy going 0 for 0 with 2 walks seems super on brand. That was kind of funny to me. But Mark Canha took some good swings. Tarik Skubal took some good swings. I thought Riley Green looked great, 0 for 2 with a walk, but I thought he was putting really good swings on the ball. Looked really comfortable and confident in the box. Jake Rogers with a nice hit. Okay, we got to get this one out of the way. I can't say anything nice about Javi without 50,000 people just, jumping all over me and saying, he's my least favorite player. He sucks. How could you say anything positive about him? He hasn't got on base yet in spring training. Okay. I'm not trying to say that this dude is fixed and he's back and watch out. Okay. So take a deep breath. But in this ball game, he pulled a fastball in the air, crushed it. It was his sac fly in the first at bat. That was a fastball that was 95 miles an hour that he pulled and lifted and hit very hard. And that was something he did not do last season. And maybe he goes the rest of the calendar year never doing it again. I don't know. It's still spring training. I understand that. You understand that. Okay, cool. I'm just saying it was nice to see. And if there's any semblance of hope, if there's any amount of hope for him having a bounce back year, a lot of it's going to have to do with his ability to hit fastballs, not his approach like everybody likes to make fun of. That's not going anywhere. A lot of it's going to come down to just him hitting fastballs better than he did. We'll go way more in depth on him when we do his player preview here in the next week or so. But that was the thing that I noticed and that I liked. Again, I know a lot of people can't stand him. I'm not saying anything about his 2024. Okay. I'm just saying he did something he struggled doing last year. I think that's kind of it. I got a couple of things I want to talk about defensively Oh, I do want to talk about Colt Keith as well. So we will finish up talking about this ball game, and then we will player preview Tarik Skubal right after this. Got to talk to you all the day today about our new friends over at Prize Picks. Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up, whether it's tournament season or the fight or for playoff home court. There's no shortage of high stakes basketball moments this year. And you can get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. If you want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like Meek Mill and Sugar Sean O'Malley over at the UFC, you can now find community plays under the promos tab. And you can view entries from some of the biggest names in Prize Picks community each week. Look, it's a super fun. I think that is the word that I would use to describe it. Just awesome daily fantasy stuff. You can pick over and under, right, on, I don't know, stars. Steph Curry, Joker, Nikola Jokic is a guy that is pretty popular pick for yours truly. Don't want to let the cat out of the bag with my secret, but really good one. Also, taking over on anything Caitlin Clark does for the most part is usually a pretty safe one as well. More for points on her. There's a lot of really fun stuff you can do over at Prize Picks. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB, all one word, for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, that's code LOCKEDONMLB for the first deposit match of $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow talking about another. We actually might have our first day off. No, that's Wednesday. Okay, so we will be talking about another spring training game on Tuesday. Our first day off of the spring is on Wednesday. And then we'll be doing player previews throughout the week still as well as we try to get through this roster. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's now also available on the Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Okay, so talking about this ball game, I do want to talk about Colt Keith really quickly before we move on to defense and then some pitching performances, aka Tarik Skubal and his player preview. I thought Colt Keith's swing looked really good in this ball game. He hasn't played; he's been sick. He's back now. They said if it was during the regular season, he'd just play through it. But in spring, why not give him a break? But yeah, he had a couple of really nice inside-out swings, heat on the inside that he was able to push out to left field. Him as a lefty, obviously that's opposite field. Got a hit and a fly out, both of them near the same spot, and both of them kind of that inside out swing. So seeing him just kind of lift the ball, go the opposite way with ease, he's going to be such a good hitter. I cannot wait for to watch him in the regular season. But I thought that he took some really good hacks as well. Defensively, let's talk about defense. Oh, Eddie's Leonard also 2 or 3 flyouts to the warning track. The dude is just an exit velo king. Going to keep a close eye on him in AAA this season. So defensively, Jake Rogers, I thought was a standout, had a caught stealing in this ball game, looked pretty solid behind the plate. We talked about him in his player preview. You know, his arm could be better than it was last season based on where it was pre-Tommy John. So we'll be really interested to see how he kind of looks in that department going forward, but had a caught steal in this ball game. Who else? Oh, there was the pop-up to start the game. There was a ball that fell in between Urshela, Baez, and Riley Green. And they were all just kind of looking around at each other, and nobody got to it. Yeah, look, obviously that's a play in the regular season I'd get really red in the face and get really mad about. In spring training, Urshela, this is his first time here. You got to work with kind of a relationship there. Also, Riley Green moving to left field. Hasn't really played too much left field as a professional. So you got a lot of guys that are working stuff out. Again, I would be really mad if this happened in the regular season. Hopefully they can get to work on it. Yeah, just something that I felt the need to bring up because it was an ugly play, but at the same time, I'm not going to lose sleep over it right now. Also, worth noting, in the regular season, Riley Green may die for that. And we can't have, both sides. We can't be like, hey, Riley, stop diving. You're going to get hurt. But also like, hey, why didn't you lay out for it in spring training? Like, you know what I mean? I feel like he probably lays out for that in the regular season. I don't know, though, right? Which is why, again, I'm talking about this. In the regular season, I would be upset. Don't get me wrong. But for, a March 4th baseball game, hopefully they work on that and study it in film and figure out who, Riley Green, how he gets to that ball for the next time that ball is hit in that area. Okay. Just wanted to address that for whatever it's worth. Pitching. Tyler Holton gives up a homer. Besides that has a clean inning, I guess, for whatever that's worth. Will Vest, I thought, looked really strong in this game. I thought Ty Madden looked incredible. 2 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, no runs, 3 strikeouts. Ever since he's gone back to over his head, he's gotten a little bit of velocity back. Big question is for him, goodness, is he going to have a major league fastball down the road? And I think in this game, you saw some glimpses of what that could be. So he's had a really solid spring as well. Pretty pumped about what he's going to look like here in the season going forward. Mason Englert had a clean inning in terms of, I guess, a shutout inning, I should say, not necessarily a clean inning, did give up a hit. Andrew Vasquez, 2 walks and a strikeout, not going to make the opening day roster, but assuming he stays with the organization after opening day and is in our minor league system to start off the year, it would not shock me if Andrew Vasquez was getting major league innings at some point again this season, similar to last year. They kind of like him as a lefty-lefty type of guy. Okay, let's talk Tarik Skubal. 3 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts. He's unbelievable. Okay, thanks for making Locked On. Like that could be the entire show. I could just be like, you know what, Tarik Skubal is really, really freaking good at his job. He just has. We call it a variation of this. We call it forget you stuff. Is what we call it. And again, not quite that, but close. Right? We call it forget yous kind of stuff on the mound, man. He goes out there and it's bully ball. He bullies you and he's not afraid to throw anything anywhere in the zone. And that is such a fantastic feature or attribute to have for an ace. And that is what I believe he will be. Talk about his 2023. We'll transition this into his player preview. Last year, in 80 and a third innings, he had a 2.8 ERA, a 3.3 WAR, which that's Fangraphs WAR, depending on which WAR you use, was the best starting pitcher. And if you care about starting pitching WAR, was the best starting pitcher in baseball from his return to the end of the year. Had an 11.43 K per 9. Unbelievable. A 1.57 walk per 9. Unbelievable. And a 0.45 home run per 9. Unbelievable. What other stats can I throw at you here? 87th percentile in ground ball rate. Really good. 94th percentile in barrel rate. Really good. 96th percentile in walk rate. 96th percentile in K rate. 85th in whiff rate. 91st in chase rate. 94th in expected batting average. 100th percentile in expected ERA a year ago. If that sounds good, it's because it is. He was legitimately one of, if not straight up, the best starting pitcher in baseball from the All-Star break to the end of the year, from his return, which was the 4th of July, until the end of the season. We will talk about what he needs to do to maintain that over a full year and just kind of, drool over his numbers and how good of a pitcher he is. And then obviously we'll talk about my expectations for him overall in the 2024 season. We will do all of that right after this. FanDuel. We talk about them all the time, and you can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. So, talking about Tarik Skubal, we talked about his numbers from last year, how absolutely unbelievable he was last season. Let's talk about 2024 and talk about some things that he did in 2023 that will set up a really good season for him in this upcoming year. I think I want to start off by just talking about how incredible I think it is that he cut down the home runs as dramatically as he did. You know, how quickly we forget 2021 Tarik Skubal. I guess I have the numbers right in front of me. I can confirm that. I think it was 2021 though. Yeah. When he was giving up home runs left and right, he was toward the league lead in home runs given up in 2021 in 149 and a third innings pitched. Always had the strikeout ability, always had the swing and miss stuff, but got hit really hard when he got hit. And we also, something that we trademarked, well, not actually, lawyers don't come at me, but that we talked about a lot in 2021 was the Skubal inning. You know, if you're a long time listener, this is like, 2.5, 3 years ago, we're talking, you will remember the Skubal inning, which was, every single start, it felt like in that season, when Tarik Skubal start, that is, you could point at one inning and go, man, if you could just remove that inning from existence, this guy would have pitched a shutout in 7 innings. But he got absolutely, blown up here in the third or the second. And it just felt like every start he had one of those. And for him to really buckle down and get better for clutch pitching and also get better at not giving up the long ball has been a massive step in the right direction. One of the reasons for that is really not rocket science. His stuff has just gotten better. And that's something that I did not expect whatsoever when he came back from injury. I've been high on Skubal for a long time, but him taking that step to like actual bona fide ace happened post-injury in 2023. I was telling people to, maybe limit your expectations. Don't expect a lot out of him. He's coming, but he hasn't pitched in a year. He's not incredible right away. Don't freak out. And he was, again, maybe the best pitcher in baseball from the 4th of July to the end of the season. So I think him coming back and like pumping 99, not something I expected, right? His velocity getting better after not pitching for almost a calendar year, not what I expected. The slider having more movement, his changeup. Oh my goodness, that's probably the biggest one aside from the fastball, I guess. His changeup looked so much better in 2023 than it did pre-injury in 2021 and 2022. And the numbers on the changeup reflect that. He had a 167 batting average against his changeup in 2023. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. Only give up 2 extra base hits on it all year as well. So didn't give up hard contact, didn't give up really contact, period. This is the most absurd stat I'm going to tell you today, okay? His changeup had a 50.6% whiff rate in 2023. That is a real stat. 50 points, over half of the changeups that were offered that he threw in 2023 were swings and misses. That is absolutely forgetting remarkable. Okay. Absolutely remarkable stat there. So, I that was one thing that paired with the fastball. Didn't expect those to get as better as they did. The slider is kind of my biggest X factor when it comes to Tarik Skubal in 2024. So I guess we won't bury the lead here, and I guess I won't be saving it for later. We can just talk about it now. This is my biggest question mark, I guess is kind of the word. Skubal has so much stuff and so many different pitches. And against righties, he throws legitimately 5 different pitches. He throws four-seam fastball. He throws a changeup, throws the slider, throws the 2-seam / sinker, whatever you want to call it, and then throws a curveball as well, that kind of knuckle curve type of pitch that he has. Against lefties, he's kind of a 2.5 pitch pitcher. Now, he's elite against lefties. His this every time I say this is the most incredible stat, I'm going to tell you there's another one that's pretty remarkable as well. His OPS against left-handed hitters in 2023. Everyone guess, whether you're in your car, you're eating breakfast, whatever you're doing, you're on your way home from work. Say out loud, just guess what you think his OPS was against lefties last year. Okay, that's really cute. It's 367. 125 batting average against, 367. Only gave up one extra base hit to a lefty all season. It was a home run. So he's even though it's only 2 pitches, he has 5 against righties. He's unhittable against lefties. Okay, it's okay that he only has really 2.5 pitches. He only throws the slider, the sinker, and then sometimes every once in a blue moon the 4-seam fastball against lefties. And the sinker, that makes sense. It's moving towards, right? It's much more of a swing and miss pitch when it's against lefties rather than righties, because it's moving back towards the hitter. In that case, the slider just makes sense, obviously, right? He threw the slider more against lefties than any other pitch in his repertoire. So that's going to be kind of his go-to. It was pretty much unhittable. His slider stats against lefties was a 100 batting average against. Now, the only home run he gave up was off of a lefty. He only gave up 2 hits. His slider only had 2 hits against it against lefties all year last season. So these are mind-bogglingly good numbers. And again, it's only 80 innings, but like still ridiculously absurd stats. The slider against righties is a big thing for me. And that's where we get into kind of my biggest kind of point here, my biggest X factor. Against righties, his slider, he threw it the 3rd most of all of his pitches against righties, that is. It had a 289 batting average against and a 553 slug. Your changeup is so good against righties, and his fastball is so good against righties, right? 191 expected batting average against, only 7 extra base hits, only 1 home run against, sub 300 expected slug against his 4-seam fastball. I could go on and on. All dang near unhittable. The changeup, we already talked about, dang near unhittable. And then the curveball, really good numbers against righties as well. So you have good enough stuff and enough pitches in your belt where you don't have to throw, dare I say, your slider against righties. But if you want to be that true bona fide take over a game ace and have all 5 pitches at your disposal against a righty when you are a lefty, right? When you're in the opposite platoon, you want as many different offerings as you can. Then figuring out how to have a good slider against righties, I think would go such a long way. Again, just there was the one pitch, and like his sinker wasn't very good, I guess, batting average wise against righties, but like I don't really care. Like that's a sinker against a righty as a lefty is like a ball in play type of pitch. Like he had a really good ground ball rate. That's really all I care about with that. So the slider is just like that is the one where if you're going to keep throwing it against righties, which I want you to, I'm not saying get rid of it. Please don't. Like, I want you to be able to have 5 different pitches against any righty that steps in the batter's box. But it needs to take a step in the right direction in a big, big way. It kind of got hit really hard. When you look at run value for all of his pitches, everything was in the positive. His curveball, I guess, was technically negative, but he only threw that 6% of the time. The slider was a -4. The sinker, +3, changeup, +6, 4-seam fastball, +10 in just 80 innings. Everything else is such a big-time plus pitch, and the slider is so unhittable against lefties, but again, struggled against righties. So that's something that I'm really looking for out of him this year. That, and then the only other thing I really have to, like we're splitting hairs big time. I want to make that abundantly clear. This guy, we'll get to expectations here in a second. I fully expect him to be one of the best left-handed pitchers in the entire game of baseball this year. Okay, so like I'm not. We're really splitting hairs on like what I want to see from him to take maybe another step forward. It's a big ask. Okay, the only other thing I really have any, like, again, splitting hairs, anything I can point out here is to be better in clutch, high pressure situations. Last season with runners in scoring position had a 327 average against and an 869 OPS against. That's something that I would love to see improved. A guy that 2 outs with runners in scoring position, 333 batting average against. For a guy that has that just good of stuff, and for a guy that has so much ability to get swings and misses whenever he wants, to get strikeouts whenever he wants, I think to be an ace, right? Like Justin Verlander was the king of that. Justin Verlander would allow some base runners. He didn't have the greatest whip you've ever seen, at least when comparing him to like the other top dogs in the sport at that time. But he didn't allow runs because he would just go, okay, I can throw 98 whenever I want to. I was just kind of maybe saving it for later. And then he'd go through and, mow down the next three, even though the bases were loaded or there were two men on, and to get out of it, right? I'm not asking for Tarik Skubal to be Justin Verlander because Tarik Skubal didn't allow base runners really very much last season at all. And that's awesome. And that is ace caliber of stuff. But when you do allow base runners, taking that next step would be, okay, I can pitch with nobody on, or I can pitch the same with nobody on as I do with runners on base and runners in scoring position specifically. So that's it. Like, there's not too much of a conversation here because he's incredible. We could just sit here and drool over numbers if you wanted, right? Like, we just talk about, again, like the uptick in fastball velo that he's shown so far this season. The strides that changeup took from one year to the next is absolutely incredible. I actually really like his curveball. I understand you don't want to throw it too much. I want his curveball to be thrown the most that he can throw it without it ever getting to a point where a batter is going up there going, okay, I got to watch out for the curveball here. And if that's 7% like it was last year, then so be it. It's 7%. But I think it actually has good depth and a good shape to it. I really like the pitch. But I don't want it to ever get to a point where a batter's sitting on it, because then it would get, I think, have the potential to get hit a little bit harder. So I think that like that 7 to 9% of the time range is kind of perfect for it. Another thing that I think is a beautiful addition. This is a guy with 5 pitches and has the potential to be have 5+ pitches, and he's elite against lefties. He has the potential to be elite against righties. There is nothing stopping this dude from being one of the best left-handed pitchers in ball this year, one of the best pitchers overall in the American League this season. We've talked a lot about, the FanDuel, right? Obviously friends of the show, but the FanDuel odds on him winning Cy Young, he's in just around top 5, somewhere in that 5 to 7 range, depending on what day you look, for American League Cy Young. I think that is the ceiling. And my expectations for him this year, I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm not hedging my expectations with maybe, full season, first full season in a while, maybe whatever. I don't care. My expectations are for this dude to be one of the best pitchers in the American League, one of the best pitchers in the division, one of the best pitchers in the AL. I fully expect him to be the bona fide ace of this team. I know he doesn't care about being labeled an ace. I'm the media. I care. And I don't care from the sense of I need to know who my team's ace is, but I do care when we're in a big series and you go, you know what? When does Skubal pitch? That's what I care about, right? The name itself, I'm kind of with them. I don't care as much about who is labeled as the ace. I think that's something for the fan base can get really excited about it and whatnot. But I care about when we go into a 4-game series, and we're 500 and we're 3 games back in June or July. And you're looking around, you're going, man, we really need to take 3 or 4 from these guys. You know what? Does Skubal pitch this series? Thank goodness there's one. There's one. Let's focus on winning 2 games this series because I know we're winning 1. That's the type of forget you stuff that he has. That's the kind of expectations I think he thrives under and wants as well. I'm not trying to blow it out of proportion here and get too high of expectations, I guess I'm going to say, on one man's shoulders. But I'll tell you what, he has the ceiling to legitimately be one of the best pitchers in the American League. And my expectation, I'm not expecting a Cy Young. Okay. I want to be that. I want to make that clear. My expectations are not for Tarik Skubal to be the best pitcher in baseball. That being said, I expect it to be, in July, he's leading the team in all-star votes. He's going to pitch in the all-star game. And we're talking about having a legitimate bona fide ace on our team in the second half of the season. And how many down ballot, Cy Young votes is he going to get? Is he going to get any top 5 Cy Young votes? That's the kind of expectations I have for him. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow, baby. Recapping another spring training game and doing another player preview as we get closer and closer to the season. All right. Let me know what you think of Tarik. I'm assuming it's all going to be good things. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.